Hi everyone, it's Don Mahoney here. I'm with Kevin Pugh, the owner of KP Vintage in Bala Cynwyd, and today we're going to talk to Mr. Pugh about collecting art. There's lots of ways that you can allocate your portfolio, but Mr. Pugh has seemed to be an expert in a subject matter that a lot of us just aren't very familiar with, and certainly not as well versed. So, hi Kevin, how are you today? All right. We're in your store, and I'm just looking around. You have a tremendous amount of art here. A lot of notable pieces I see, and some I'm not very well familiar with. What made you get into this?
Oh, I've loved art since I was a kid. I used to think of myself as somewhat of an artist when I was a kid, and found that I couldn't do it as well as others. So what I started to do is to buy their art, and just grew into what I have now.
Okay. So is this more or less a business or an expanded hobby?
Well, the art part of it is more of a hobby than a business in terms of, a lot of it I buy for, I would say, like part of my retirement, but not to sell during my business.
Okay. And what made you select the type of pieces versus, I guess, subjective interest in the art, as opposed to pieces that you think retirement should be based on? What's the difference there?
Well, I think as a collector, I don't know if you can actually start off basing it on a retirement. You should start off basing it on what you like. And if, after collecting, what happens is you get to a point where you have to start thinking about that, because you're spending money buying pieces, and there's a lot of beautiful pieces out there. So after a while, just buying the pieces because they're beautiful, you have to start thinking about whether it benefits you to buy the piece for the money that you're spending. And that's also gambling. So you end up start to buy pieces that you think that may have or increase in value in the future because of the artist, how the artist was taught, what the artist has gone through, and things like that.
Okay. Now, do you also look at historical sales on some of the art that you buy?
Yeah. Once you get into the point where you're starting to buy art in terms of value, you have to do that. You have to see what pieces are sold in auction, what galleries are asking for the pieces, what the artist is asking for his pieces, and then you base your purchasing on those criteria.
Okay. Right. Now, is provenance really a big factor in selecting the right pieces for your collection?
I think so. Especially if it's a piece where the artist has passed. The provenance on that piece is very, very important. And even if the artist is still around, it's always good to get some information from the artist or from the gallery you buy from to prove that the piece came or is authentic to that particular artist.
Now, does that hold true for more contemporary pieces, or how about some of the masterworks or the antiquities?
Definitely. Well, it holds true to art throughout.
Okay.
And because just like with anything, it can be handbags or watches. People can copy these things. So you kind of want to have some kind of provenance on it to show that the piece is authentic and not a copy. So that's why it's very important to have that information.
Now, where do you usually purchase your pieces from? Is it a mixture of galleries, auctions, or private?
All of those things. Okay. Privately, auctions, galleries, art dealers. I'm pretty much what they call an opportunist. I know people in the auction world who, when they have pieces that they think I'm interested in, call me, let me know. And other auctions where they have sales because I've purchased things from them before. They send you early information with the catalogs, different things like that. Okay.
So, when it comes to selecting a piece, you apply different valuations to it. Provenance being one, historical sales being another. But what about some of those real contemporary pieces, up and coming artists? Do you even consider those in your collection?
Oh, definitely. That's why, the most important part of collecting is buying what you like. Because there's no, I can't say that. There is a guarantee that certain pieces may increase in value. But when you're looking at contemporary, the newer artists that are coming out, you really have to buy what you like because, you never know.
Right. Now, are there any pieces in here that you'd like to give reference to as far as what a beginning collector should begin to concentrate on?
A beginning collector really has to collect according to the amount of money they want to spend. Most beginning collectors will probably start collecting prints or art from new artists because you can buy them reasonably. Established artists are a little bit tougher in terms of value because they pay a little bit more. But I have a lot of art in here from local artists, African American art, and some non-African American art.
Getting back to prints, are prints and seriographs, are those really good investments for the future?
Well, I would say so because you can see some prints that what they sold originally, let's say 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 20 years ago, and you look at the values now, they're a lot higher than they were at the time. Prints do have a lot of that. I mean, you look at the contemporary artists from, let's say, the 70s and in the 60s that did a lot of prints. Some of that stuff you can't even afford anymore. And they were prints. You could probably buy them for $100, $150, $200. And now they're thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars, depending on the artist. So
give an example of some of these artists.
I would say artists like Andy Warhol, Jasper Johns, that whole New York group crowd back then, and even some of the African American artists from the African American artists who did a lot of prints. Their prints are worth a lot more than they were when they originally sold. So prints are a way of starting, a way of having, art in your home or art wherever you want it to be, and and it can be affordable if you're buying like non-established artists. Established artists can be, as you can buy Warhols that you could have paid, $200 for, in the 70s, can now cost you $200,000. So that's the way that goes.
Talk more about, how you think that your selection.
Here's the problem with values. I really haven't put any value in any of this stuff.
Well, it's worth more than what you paid for.
When I buy it, it's worth more than what I paid for. That's the way I buy things. But what is the true value of it? That's a whole nother thing.
Well, we don't have to talk about that. The whole point is to get people's minds to not just think stocks, bonds,
right.
And look at art and some other collectibles as a potential means for retirement.
Correct.
And even though it may be difficult to assess a value on these pieces, you have a range in your mind on certain things when you go in there to bid or to buy something.
Right.
You know what you want to pay before you even see it.
Right.
And so we want to try to convey that to the people, and then and then take them from step A to Z. If you have some discretionary income towards investing in art, how do you get started? What piece should you buy if you're starting out, let's say, with $10,000 or $20,000 or even $50,000? If you have $100,000, what should you really be looking at?
I mean, if you have that kind of money, if you're a person who has $100 to spend or $1,000 to spend. That's one thing. If you got $100,000 to spend on art and you want to do that as an investment, you really at that time have to do your homework. And the best way to buy art when you're spending a decent amount of money is to go to large auction houses and see what the large auction houses are selling art for, because pretty much they control the values.
They set the market.
They set the market, right. So, the galleries are always going to be what they're going to be. But what people are paying at auction is really, I think, the bottom line value of the art. A gallery will probably sell it for more than what the auction house sells it for. But, you can, if you do your homework, you can go past auctions, see what a particular, you like a particular artist or a particular style of art. What you do is you go to past auctions, you see what the work was selling for, the size of the piece, what the pieces were painted on, because a lot of that stuff matters. A piece painted on canvas is going to be a lot more paid than a piece on paper, or a piece that was printed is going to be less money than a hand done piece that was on paper. So you have to know what those categories are, and it really, if you're buying it as strictly as an investment, then that's when you really want to do your work. If you're buying it because you want to be a collector and you like a particular artist, you study that particular artist, the style, and you buy what you like at the best value you can buy it for. And if that artist is notable, that artist's work probably will increase in value. Now, in terms of investment, throughout the history of mankind, the common denominator between people, even before money, was art. People would paint things on walls or on paper to talk. Art is the most important part of our history because it explains human development. So that's the reason why when countries take over other countries or one king takes over another king, what they do is they go on, the first thing they take is the art and the writings. Those things are the most important because it tells the story of the people who they took over, right? And if they want to wipe out their history, they get rid of the art and the writings. If they want to enhance that part of it, they allow that part to show more. You look at even like when the Germans wanted to take over the world. The things that they were going around taking was the art and the writings, and they were putting it in vaults. Why? Well, it's important. That's how important. The money didn't even matter. The art mattered more than the money of wherever they were trying to go. So, and I don't know if people really understand why. It's important, and also it brings beauty. It's something that you can have in your house, something you can, once you buy it, you can enjoy it until you're ready to turn it into an investment. I don't know of many things you can do that way. You can have your stocks and bonds. It's a piece of paper. You never get to enjoy it other than maybe look at your portfolio every once in a while and say, oh, it's going up and down. But if you go out and you buy the right piece of art, you can have that piece sitting in your house and you can sit there and you can watch it all day long. You can listen to music and have a glass of wine or whatever you like to drink, sitting watching it. Or you can have 20 of your best friends over to sit around and talk about it. That's the greatest thing in the world, So that's the reason why I think people, me, collect art.
Now you brought up a good and interesting point about the money wasn't as important as the art.
Right.
Now, are there circumstances in which you think a piece of art or maybe a series of artists' work, it's an inflated market or an inflated position?
That's a matter of opinion, but I do think so. I mean, I just looked at well, I actually read a thing on the internet the other day about a particular artist from New York who, in my opinion, I guess you can call him an artist. He's a contemporary artist, but his work is bringing these astronomical prices, you know, and it's not, and in my opinion, his work is, it's not so innovative, you know, and the reason why a lot of artists' work bring the top dollars because they were innovative, they were in a position where their work kind of changed the art's direction, you know, and those guys are very important, you know. But this guy, you know, and his work is just, I mean, it's beautiful, but I don't know if it's worth, you know, $50 million, $100 million for a piece. But, you know, it's all in the eye of the beholder. It's all in the eye of the person who wants to pay the dollars. So that's what matters.
Okay, so certainly those pieces that, in your opinion, those pieces that have an innovative style or maybe some sort of innovative medium added to the canvas, so to speak, that denotes more value?
Generally it does. It'd be, like I say, the artist, if you look at art from, I would imagine from the 1800s when the art style started to change, and up into the contemporary artists, and whose work brings the most money now. Most of those guys were artists whose work was very innovative, very cutting edge, and in the beginning of their styles, you know, and because of that, the art started to become wider, more open in terms of just the way artists look at art. You know, at one time, artists painted what they saw, and they couldn't get past that. Now there was a time where, you know, certain artists wanted to see who can use the best source of light and add light and different realistic things to make it, you know, different paint tones and colors and things like that to make the piece look more realistic. But that was still within a parameter. All right, once, you know, the abstract world started to come about, the Art Nouveau world started to come about, the work started to take a different change. And now we have, you know, a lot of abstract artists. I mean, in the 1700s, I don't even know if they even thought about abstract. To paint something that didn't have any structure to it didn't make sense.
Right.
But today, it's a big thing,
Right.
you know? So, and that's all due to, in my opinion, and in the way I see it, artists who were innovative and stretched the boundaries of what I would call classic art.
Okay. Neoclassic style.
Right.
So again, getting back to that, the art may have more value than the money. Overall, since you've been collecting for at least 20 plus years, would you say that those pieces that you've selected primarily for investment purposes have returned what on average? Within, let's say, 5-year period, 5-year interval.
I bought a Warhol that I paid $1,500 for 20 years ago. I have no idea what is it worth today. You know, signed Marilyn Monroe.
Canvas?
No, it's one of those. I don't care.
On paper,
Yeah.
It's worth it good.
Yeah, it's definitely worth more than $1,500.
Oh,
So
it's not a bad investment.
No, not at all. So, and at the time, it wasn't an investment. It wasn't even thought of as an investment. But I still own it. I kept it, and it has increased in value. You know, so that's a good thing. You know, if to look at the value or the increase in value, there's an easy way of doing that. You can go to the major auctions, and they have archives that show you, back 5-10 years or so, and you just look at the progression. I don't know if there's an investment better than that right now.
Really?
I mean, there's things like gold and and all these other things that you can buy, and even the stock market. Go to Sotheby's, go to Christie's, go to Phillips, and look at what people are paying for art. It'll blow your mind. It's amazing what the amount of money they're paying for a painting. You know, a Motherwell, a Picasso. You know, they just had a Picasso that sold for over $100 million.
That was the one Steve Wynn used to own, and he punctured it by accident.
All right. Yeah. And here's the thing, and they know Picasso to have done almost 20,000 pieces.
Right.
Yet he still has the most expensive piece ever sold.
Right.
You know, so you know
the richest of at the time of all living artists
right
in history.
I think it's one of the best investments because not only do you get to use it and see it and just have it around you if you want that. You know, some people buy art and they stick it in a vault. You know, I know people that do that. You know,
He didn't look at me, everybody.
and some people just have you know, they buy, you know, a few pieces and put them on their walls, you know, and you know, it's one of the investments that kind of has state study,
Right.
you know, and like I said, if you just look at I would imagine from the 70s to now, I would imagine the prices just have increased and increased and increased and increased. You know, it may be a point where it was stable, but it's you know, it's different than the real estate market, the stock market, where those things fluctuate up and down, up and down, and up and down. You know, it's pretty stable.
Art is more it's less volatile.
Less volatile, right?
And why? What do you denote that to?
Well, I think that I denote that too. I think, you know, this is just my opinion. It's the importance of what it is.
The piece itself.
The piece, yes. You know, even if it's a print, you know, each print is done individually. So if the artist made 50 prints, each one of those are individual pieces of art. So once one of those pieces are gone, they're gone. You're not going to reproduce it. You're not going to tear a house down on a block that you have 100 houses and then just build another house and you maintain, in real estate, you maintain the values of the rest of the houses. That, you know, you can tear it down and you can build up something else and everything is still good. But with art, once that piece is gone, it's just done, you know? And if it's only 50 pieces made, then only 50 people in the whole world can have one of those pieces.
Right.
You know, if it's only one piece done, only one person in the whole world. And how many people are here?
Right.
I mean, and only one person. I'm the only person in the world that own this.
Right.
You know, so
What is that piece, by the way?
this piece is a piece by Paris Dencel, who is a local Philadelphia artist, is a mural artist here in Philadelphia. And this piece is denoting like the hardships of man. You see the chains and you know, I love Paris's work. I actually have Paris's work from different points of his life where his work has changed and gone through change. You know, this is the guy, in my opinion, to buy. You know, he's not putting out a whole lot of work, so it's not like it's a trillion pieces out there in the market, and he's a noted guy. You know, and if you like his work, you know, some people come in, they like the colors. You know, but you know, his work has a lot of meaning to it. Like even the flag is a piece by him. You know, so.
Now, on something like this, if a person was starting out that had the discretionary investment income, how much would something like this be to acquire?
Well, it's hard to say. Like, acquire from who? Him or me? You know, I mean, for me, I mean, this piece, I don't know. I mean, this piece is, to me, is a $10,000 piece. You know, to someone else, it might be a $2,000 piece. But, you know, I wouldn't sell it for less than maybe $7,500. You know, I just love the piece. You know, and then you have pieces like the Andrew Turner. You know, a lot of his stuff is very, very important. In my opinion, probably, you know, if I say what I'm going to say, a lot of artists from Philadelphia will be upset with me.
Go ahead and
a lot of artists will be upset with me in terms of, I think he's probably one of the greatest artists ever. And I've seen a lot of art in my life. And I've never seen art where everybody wants this particular artist's work. This work talks to you. It transcends where you see what you see. It goes, you know, a lot of work is beautiful, and it has. You see what you see, and within the parameters of the paper, it tells a story, and you can go into the paper and make the story. His work tells a story before the paper, after the paper. It's just all around the paper. It's past the paper, and you know. And if when you look at it, it's just you can look at a piece and you start relating to. Not only the piece, but things you know about, things that's on the paper and past the paper. Nobody's work does that to me. That's the reason why I love his work and I collect his work. You know? So
you actually met him at one point.
Oh yeah. I met Andrew. My first piece I bought from him, not even really knowing who he was. I was coming from home, coming to the shop, and I saw this tall guy walking with a big piece of painting, a big painting rolled up. So, and, you know, I'm an art freak. So, you know, I see an artist, I want to stop and I want to talk to him. So I stopped this guy. I said, "Hey, how you doing?" I'm in my car. I told him my name, and I said, "Yeah, I love art. What do you have?" So he unrolls this piece, and I looked at it and I said, "Wow, that piece is incredible. I got to have that piece." I didn't even know who he was, so I said, "Well," I negotiated with him for the piece of art, and he sold it to me. And I kept asking him what his name was, because when you look at his work, a lot of times his signature is kind of hard to figure out.
Right.
So I bought that, and I had that hanging in my house for many, many years before I bought my next piece, and so. Now I have quite a few pieces by him. So, and I collect a lot of African American art from not only from Philadelphia but throughout the country. Yeah. And that's it.
Now, do you mostly collect contemporary African American art as opposed to some of the African artists that are
right? Yeah, I collect mostly contemporary African American art.
Why is that? What's the difference?
Well, the African art is really, really hard to authenticate. You know, and you really have to buy from a place where they're reputable, they know what they're doing, and you know you can count on. So that's the reason why I kind of stay away from it. Plus, my true love is work on paper or canvas, and a lot of African art is mostly three-dimensional sculpture, which I'm really getting into right now. You know, I'm starting to do a lot of stuff, like, you know, starting to get into three-dimensional pieces.
Now, on the European artists, are you more on the contemporary side there, or are you looking at older pieces from the Renaissance or some of the Impressionists, the Great Impressionists of the latter century?
Right. Well,
what do you actually look for?
I personally tend towards the more contemporary work. The classic work, the Impressionist work, all that stuff is beautiful. The only problem is a lot of times, I mean, unless you have a gigantic house and you can blend them, they'll kind of like, you know, you have to have separate areas for contemporary, certain areas for classical or impressionist work. And impressionist work, good impressionist work, can cost a lot of money, but it's probably it's probably the best investments, or some of the best investments to buy, because it's just classic. I love it all. You know, I have impressionist work, and I have, but most of my work is contemporary, modern contemporary work.
Do you have a piece of Impressionist work here in your shop?
I do, but it needs repair.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, talking about that, repairing of art. Does the repair on a piece, I mean, how does that work? Does that really take away from the final price of the piece? If the piece is damaged, for example, Steve Wynn's Picasso, he was showing it off the night he acquired it, and he actually punctured the painting. He paid $120 million for it.
Right.
And it cost him about $60,000 to repair. I mean, does that really take away from the final value of the piece?
It's repaired by reputable or known restorers. It kind of makes the value the same. I mean, anytime you're getting something repaired or fixed or built or whatever, there's certain people whose work, who does that work, is almost as important as some of the work that they're doing the work on. Right. So if you're getting those guys to do it, then you didn't really lose any value. I don't think. And an important piece like the Picasso, I don't think that piece would have, even with the puncture in it, would have really lost any value.
Right.
But I mean, because people understand what that is. It's just that one piece.
Right.
You're gonna not buy it because it's a small hole in it.
Well, I didn't even know that it made a difference from the restoration perspective. I was not even aware of that.
Yeah, well, if the restoration is done badly, it's definitely going to hurt the piece. But if the restoration is done well, and it's done by people who collectors respect, then that's even more. That's even better.
Well, let's get back to the monetary valuations that can be achieved by putting together a good, comprehensive portfolio for investment purposes, because I think that's what everybody wants to know about. So on average, would you say over the years you would maybe have a 10 or 20% increase in the on average out of the collection?
At least that.
At least that.
Right.
Okay.
Right. I mean, especially like I say, the way I buy. I mean, you can, if you go out and you buy full retail, that might be a different situation. But if you're buying at auction, or you're buying from private collectors, your profit margin tends to be a little larger.
Really?
Right. But if you're buying from a gallery, you may have to wait for that investment to realize itself. But it depends on the artist. Well-known artists, galleries sell at the price the price that they can get at the time, and most likely it's the highest price they can get at the time. A lot of times you do better at auction. Because the auction price realized, right? Like I said, is they create the market or the values by that price sold. So a lot of times, oh well, sold last time for 10,000. Most likely it'll bring more in a future auction.
Have you ever seen the reverse happen, when a piece sold for a considerable amount and then lost value over time?
I've seen it happen of the piece being sold at different auctions. Like you have a noted auction for a particular style, and a lot of people tend to go to that auction because they want this particular style that this auction house is known for. So they tend to pay more. But then you can have that same style sold at an auction house that's not known for that, and it may not bring that crowd that's going to pay that top dollar, and you may get it for less. So a lot of times that's the best way to buy.
Really?
Yeah.
It doesn't overall destroy the intrinsic value of the artist and that similar work?
No, not really, because a lot of times they say anything that goes through like your top auction houses, they're generally going to bring the top people, top collectors for the art that they're selling. Smaller auction, neighborhood auction, different places that may get pieces from the states that sell that stuff may advertise it as well. So that's when you can probably get your best values. A lot of times that's where I get my best values. And that's I keep my name with these smaller auction houses. So if anything comes up, give me a call. Let me know that you have this stuff coming up, and I go and hopefully bid and win.
So investors should consider networking with a lot of these, brokers and auctioneers, and to kind of get their name out there. Maybe show up to a few auctions, even if not prepared to buy, but certainly look to see what's going on. What the market's driving as far as the prices and certainly the types of works or artists that are being featured.
Estate sales, a lot of times they're great. There's great art hanging in people's houses that are selling their homes, downsizing, and they have this great work and they're just selling it off. Those are places that you can get good deals from.
Okay, if I were an investor and I'm ready, I don't know anything about art, but I listen to you and I'm taking your advice. I'm doing a little research on several artists. I'm doing a little research from the different auction houses as to what's selling. So I have, let's say, $50,000. Now, how should I allocate that? Should I spend maybe 10 or 15,000 on those pieces that are around 2 to 10,000, the more localized artists or less known artists, but maybe that have some sort of innovation at the time they produce their work? Or should I just put the whole mother load into something more notable, more name worthy?
Well, I think the safest bet is to go after the noteworthy artists who have established values. And if you could buy them, maybe on the secondary market, that's where you can get your best bet for investment purposes. Now you can also follow the trend of that particular artist, and even if you bought it at a gallery or one of the top auction houses, if you kind of see the progression of the value of that art, you can almost count on that to continue that way. Mm-hmm. So, if you buy it, if you've seen what was happening in the last 5 years, maybe in the next 5 years, you're going to see a similar increase in value. Unless, the economy just goes totally bad, but that's the way I've seen it, It's just a pretty gradual, stable increase in percentages over the years.
So art is definitely a long-term investment.
Yes, and not only is it even better than a long-term investment. It's like something you can enjoy. So it's like you buy a Ferrari, right? You drive that Ferrari around, you know, and if it's the right Ferrari, 10 years from now it's worth more than you paid for it.
Right.
You know, you buy a Thunderbird, you drive that Thunderbird around and you enjoy it. You know, 10 years from now it's worth less than you paid for it. So, you know, that's the situation. You know, it's nothing like being able to enjoy the piece, even if you buy a piece and it only increases 10% in 5 years. How much of the enjoyment of having that piece in your house? What is that worth? Isn't that worth 10% a year?
Oh, absolutely.
Right. So
to an enthusiast.
Right.
But to an investor, they're looking to achieve a lot more value.
Right. Well, I think it's a good investment in terms of value. You just gotta, if you're just going strictly in terms of investment, you just got to do your homework, and you know, you want to buy investment work if you're looking strictly at an investment. You know, if you want to just you know, find out maybe, then you can buy up and coming artists and see what happens. You know, that's kind of a risk in the beginning. You have to buy that art because you like it and hope that it happens. But if you're buying the right artist, when we look at Jean-Michel Basquiat, when he was giving away pieces for $10.
Yeah.
Those pieces.
Samo.
Yeah,
Samo. Yeah.
Yeah, $100,000, and the big pieces that he's paying, they were going for $20-30 million. You know.
Right.
I mean, stuff he painted on doors. You know, and during his lifetime, he became so popular, people were ripping the doors down and the tables off and selling that art.
Right, so that is one of the rare exceptions to.
Rare exception to art, and especially a rare exception to African American artists. Yeah, but it happened.
Do you think the interest in him was the affiliation with Warhol more so, or do you think if he didn't have that Warhol affiliation, would he still be fetching the prices that he's getting now?
I think that my personal feeling about Jean-Michel is the same personal feeling I have about Jeff Koons. And what that is that both of those artists' work were promoted by the right people at the right time. They took a hold of their work and they controlled the work. They created the market for the work, and it just kept going. You know, like Jeff Koons has probably the best marketing ever. You know, it's just incredible what he's doing with his work. You know, and so that's what happens with a lot of artists. A lot of times it's a matter of the right people buying it, the right people getting a hold and getting control of the work, and creating the market for it. You know, I have a friend who used to be in the jewelry business, and he was really big in the antique jewelry business. And then he went from his main business being jewelry and antique and jewelry to impressionist art. It's probably the largest collector of impressionist art in the world right now. You know, and he went from something that he knew was volatile to something that he knew was stable, and that's his main throw now. It's just, you know, what he pretty much count on as his business. All the other stuff is still there, but the art is where he went to, you know, and it's most of the impressionist work. You know?
Are there people that are out there that could help an investor purchase the right things?
Yeah, I mean, there are definitely gallery owners, and there are people who have connection with artists who can help you, you know, and you can also, you know, the internet, I guess.
Museum curators, would they be helpful?
I would imagine a museum curator would be helpful, but I think there are people out there that like art enthusiasts that you can talk to that'll give you a better understanding of what artist is probably the artist to buy if you want to get into art without being on the upper side, on the upper end, and and they can talk to you about those things. But if you have the money to invest, you can go to some of the better galleries and just see what they have, what they're selling, and you see what you like. Find those artists, and you can look and see if you can find those artists in other places other than their galleries.
Now you mentioned everyone but an art consultant or a broker, I guess. Now, so what you're feeling is stay away from them, try to do your own homework, grassroots type of boots on the ground approach, or?
Well, no. I mean, you could do that also. I mean, if you have enough, I know a lot of corporations hire art brokers,
right?
To put art in their facilities. That's one way of doing it also. But you pay commission. So if you got $100,000 to spend, they're going to take a percentage of that. So just one less painting they do.
Right.
But I mean, that's a way of doing it also. I mean, if you're looking for art as an investment, you might want to go that way because they can steer you better. They may be able to negotiate a better price for you from a place, maybe even a gallery that generally won't discount. They may be able to negotiate a better deal for you, so that when you buy the piece, you're buying it below the market value.
So there are some advantages.
Yeah, it's just some. And then when you do that, you buy it with a built-in investment right away. Some built-in equity in it. Yeah.
Now, as far as and we've learned quite a bit from you about how you should go about trying to acquire a piece, understanding how much you want to spend, and not having overzealous expectations, but certainly realistic expectations to a minimum of 10% a year gain. Is that realistic to say? Or 5%? Where do you see the minimum expectation?
To say an amount of gain, I would imagine. I mean, 5 to 10% would be an amount that you probably could expect.
Okay.
Annually, yeah. And it really depends on some artists take off, so that can increase. But I would imagine that you would probably make more in an investment than putting money into a standard bank account.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
Now, give an example of some of those artists that, in your opinion, may blow up soon, that are in the middle, either their careers are beginning, well, their careers are the careers, but the art itself is beginning to get momentum. And some of those artists, give examples of some of those past artists that you currently collect that have an incredible surge. Well, Andrew, let's talk about him, for instance. Since the time you first acquired your first Turner,
right,
where do you see his pieces at, and where do you think they're going in the next 5-10 years?
Well, I think that everything I bought by Andrew, I've increased 50% or more.
Over what time span?
I would imagine my first piece I bought, it was probably about 4 to 15 years ago, and then and I didn't really start collecting them heavy until maybe about 10 years ago. and I believe that everything I have is worth at least 5 times what I paid for.
Wow.
You know, so and he is a good guy to collect. You know, I mean, also because a lot of his work is work you will enjoy. You know.
So let's clarify. You're saying within, I'll say, a 15-year period,
Right.
you've had a minimum of 500% return on just that one particular artist.
I guess if you look at it like that, that's what it comes out to, right?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Right. I know the first piece I bought, what I paid for it and what I think I could sell it for today, it's probably a higher percentage than that.
Wow.
Right. But you know, I buy the way I buy.
Right.
You know. So.
Now,
yeah.
the other artists that in your collection, can you give perhaps another example aside from Andrew Turner?
Well, I have quite a few different artists, and you know, I have.
The problems of the rich.
No, it's just, I don't. You know.